Mary Allen and Kana Brown are our next speakers, and they have developed a really cool friendship. And so we've been talking a lot about how we develop relationships beyond barriers, and they're going to be a live example of that. We're going to ask them how they got to know each other and all that stuff. So you guys welcome Mary and Kana to the stage. So as we kick off, thanks for coming. We would like to know just who you are and what you do in Evansville.
Yeah, so my name's Mary Allen. I live downtown. I own 6th Street Soapery and Evansville Pedicab and started a little podcast called The Mary Movement. We've lived downtown for about 5-6 years. I am married, have 3 daughters. It's kind of funny, after Kana and I met and talked, I found out my daughters went to high school with her, so that shows our age difference a bit. But and I am a grandma of a little granddaughter.
Awesome.
My name is Kana Brown. I am an esthetician, and I have a day spa in downtown Evansville that actually started in Mary's Place. I own Love It EBB magazine. I started that about 3 years ago. I was raised by a single mother. I've lived in Evansville my whole life. I have 1 sister and 2 little nephews.
Awesome. All right, so when we met, I learned that you guys met through this downtown market called Old Town. Some of you guys might have gone this past summer. They've been doing it a while, and this was maybe 4 years ago, and so you guys had a mutual connection that kind of said, hey, Mary's got some space, Kana's looking for space, you guys should talk. And what I found interesting was that connection actually turned into you guys like living in the same building. So this thing that you were adding value to one another's lives, and you know, just pretty cool to see how that developed into a friendship. So Kana, I wanted to ask you, what are something from that early, just getting to know Mary, building a friendship early on, living in the same place, like what were some of the things that were like harder to deal with or just get to know about Mary? A difficulty.
If anybody knows Mary, she is obsessed with her dog. That'd be a starting point. If you know her, she's pretty easy to love. I mean, I didn't really, in the beginning, have too many obstacles getting to know the Allens. It started off very business, but probably about a year, I moved into their upstairs space, and so it got a lot more involved. We shared home, but we talked about having uncomfortable conversations very early on. Like when you care about someone, you have the conversations that you don't want to have to make sure that you can keep that relationship. So anything that was off, we kind of talked about head on.
That's good. All right, so Mary, what's your take on that? You kind of went from business relationship to friendship. We started living in the same place. What were some of the challenges that were there or present in building that kind of relationship?
It did. It kind of started, I guess, more business, and but when you spend time together, and I think that's the key thing. When you get to know people and you spend time with them, that's the key factor. And you have conversations and you connect, and on an ongoing basis. You know their heart, they know yours, and you have that friendship equity, I guess, that builds. And then there's a trust factor, so you can have difficult conversations, and if you misunderstand each other, you talk through those things. I mean, with me and Kana, there's age difference, there's racial difference, belief difference, maybe thought difference, all of those things, but we laugh together. That's one of the things I meant when Brandon talked. He's like laughing together. That connects. And if you look at our YouTube videos, you'll see. But and just share life. So when you share life, we have fun experiences. We've had difficult experiences. But when you share life, you work through those kinds of things. And I've learned a lot. So I feel like we've learned a lot from one another, and it is mutually beneficial, not just in friendship, but in challenging yourself. And I think we live in a space where, in most most often where we're just comfortable. We're around people who look like us, think like us, act like us, believe like us, and it's just a comfortable place to be sometimes. But I think one of my favorite folk singers.
I didn't know what you were going to say.
No. I was like, one of my favorite lines is the path of least resistance, keep at a distance. So it's like I think our lives are more enriched when we, I don't know where I was going with that. Where was I headed with that?
I don't know, but I have another question.
Oh, okay, good.
So we can go with that.
But the things that we challenge with one another, the things that we learn from one another, and so you grow from other cultures and different things. And I'll share some of those that I've learned from Kana later.
Well, good.
Okay, next question.
We want to know something funny that you've learned about each other. So Kana, maybe you've got a funny Mary story that you could tell us about.
Oh gosh. Before the Bye Felicia one, sometimes I would come home and she'd be practicing a trumpet. Was it a trumpet? Trombone? A trombone. And it's like, in what world does that happen? Like, I don't know. They did some weird stuff. I mean, like, weird normal stuff, I guess. But anyways, so I started a hashtag called Urbanizing the Allen Home because they are just very middle class, white, suburban, which is great. It enriched my life. But there were some things that they just didn't get.
No, it's true.
So I was writing some status on Facebook, which my family hates me on Facebook, including the Allens. But I put something, and at the end of it, I was like, I just hashtag Bye Felicia. Like, I can't. And Mary, I think she texted me, or we were out drinking, probably. Me, not her. And she was like, what if Felicia sees that? Like, it's really going to hurt her feelings. And I'm like, oh. So then I had to give her the lesson on Bye Felicia. So.
I can't stop using it.
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
Anything I teach her, she uses it a lot for the following week. So sometimes longer. So, yeah. That would be the funniest one, I think.
And then I also learned that I want to be invited to the cookout.
Oh.
I did learn that. Did you know that? Okay. Let's look these things up.
Yeah, if you ever want to look up the hashtag invited to the cookout, that's a thing too. So.
All right, Mary. Now it's your turn. What's something funny that you could tell us about Kana?
Oh, sorry. Well, I don't know.
I'm cooler than her.
I know. I'm like, I don't have any. That's probably true. It's more funny. Like, she's just really honest and upfront, and will say stuff. So when we're in our kitchen or if we're just at home, whatever, she'll just look like, that is the whitest thing I think I've ever seen. And I'm like, what? But maybe not funny things that I've learned and grown from being with getting to know Kana so closely is. I have a biracial daughter, and so sometimes I'd like to think that I'm culturally intelligent, or whatever. Obviously, the Bye Felicia, clueless. But but there are things, though, raising maybe a biracial child and being connected and having a heart friendship with someone is you learn different things, and things hit you differently and impact you differently. And I remember we were buying a baby book for a mutual friend, and so we were shopping for this baby book, and Kana said, oh, we have got to get this book. What's it called? Corduroy? Yeah, Corduroy. She goes, it was the first time. She goes, we have to give her that book. This is the first time that as a child that I saw someone in it that looked like me. And I cry every time I think about that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that was like this mind-blowing moment. Like, I never had that experience of looking in a book and not seeing someone that looked like me. And just to have that awareness, and when you have those conversations, just those things that you hear and understand that you just never think about, or like living. I grew up in Cincinnati, but it was like this little tiny part that was pretty much all white. There was no one who graduated of color with me. And so I was always in white spaces. And then living in Evansville, we're the majority. So it is right. And so, like, having these conversations, like going to meetings, and because Kana and I are both very involved in Evansville, we love this community, we're invested, we have both built businesses here and are in our lives here. But going to meetings, so we'll go to meetings together, and she might very well be the only black person there. And like, I don't notice that. And like, she'll say, she'll bring it to my attention. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, it's only hit me to when I've gone home to visit in-laws in Baton Rouge, and I went, and it's more 50-50, and I went into a store, and I think I was the only white person there, and I looked around, and I thought, oh, I finally got it. I was like, this is what Kana feels like a lot, when we go to places. And so just having that willingness to be challenged in your thought process and see things from other people's perspective, like, I would just encourage you to do that. I don't know.
Well, on that note, unfortunately, we don't necessarily pursue relationships or deep friendship with people that have very different experiences than us, and maybe it's hard to find those relationships. But putting that question aside, what's the reward for you guys? You guys have put in a lot of effort and tried really hard to listen well and to understand one another. What are why? Why is it worth it? For anybody who's kind of doubting it, or I don't want to put in all that hard work, or I don't know anybody that I could do that with, what's the reward? Why should we do that?
For me, the Allens, both of them together have enriched my life. There are, like I said, I was raised by a single parent, and I've never wanted for anything, but there's things when you get older, you realize that you didn't get a chance to witness, and just seeing their marriage and their relationship. Greg has been a great stand-in father, so like he's definitely been there. He went to Kwanzaa with me last year. So having that relationship is great. Our business, we created a skincare line together. Economical things too that I would not have been able to do without having that relationship. When I met them, I had this car called Julio. It's like my hoopty, which no one else thought was safe for me to drive, but I was all about it. Still to this day, like Julio was my ride or die, and so
and we thought she would die.
But Mary went to purchase a new car. She could have easily, traded in her car and got, more money towards what she was doing. But she saw a need. They saw a need. They let me purchase it. Things that you don't really think about as far as the economical differences. I've never had a loan for things. I've always paid cash, and so having people that want to invest in you when it's harder for you to get investment from different parts of the community has been a great deal and so much help to me in my life in creating my business. And outside of that, it's just, they're just awesome people. I always say they are the greatest example I've seen of Christian people who just want to give. They just give. And they don't think twice about it.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you remember the question? Why is it worth it, to invest in this kind of relationship for you, Mary? That was a great answer, Kate.
I know. Look at her. She's precious. So today, right? It's a love-hate. No, it's not. It's not at all. Your life is so much richer. Greg and I were talking about that today. Like, we knew we were coming here and we were talking, and I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like such an obvious answer, I guess. But our life is richer, more full, and we're more aware. I feel like we're more sensitive, to things. We're challenged. We want to be more intentional and the way we live and what we do and who we interact with. And I think that is all a big part of our relationship with Kana.
Awesome. We've been on this theme tonight, if you guys haven't sort of noticed, tensions and division and building relationships and making a community for everyone. And you guys, I just wanted to ask you, as you guys have formed this great friendship, What would you guys say are some of the things that are required? What does it take a person to be able to do that? Maybe we've heard some examples tonight from some of the other talks, and if they're the same, then echo them. And if you have some other thoughts, then let us know what you think it has required of you to build that kind of friendship.
I just love Dan forcing tomatoes on people. Like, that is the best. But you're intentional, right? You saw people, you wanted to meet them, you wanted to interact, and you were intentional about it. And so putting yourself in those places. Our friendship happened, I think, pretty organically. We were introduced by someone, and we had mutual ideas of entrepreneurship and those kinds of things, and it grew from there. But maybe your instances might have to be more intentional. So you go to Kwanzaa with someone when they invite you, or we have great, amazing speakers that come to Evansville, and like the Human Rights Commission dinner, if you went to that, to challenge your thinking and to meet people there. Just to be intentional about go into spaces and places where people don't look like you and allow yourself to be uncomfortable. It's okay. Keep the path of least resistance at a distance. John Flynn, look him up.
I'd have to agree with that. Just being very intentional. Outside of our relationship, if there's anything cultural going on, there was just something in New Harmony. I saw it, and I was like, I want to be where, people who don't look like me, I want to embrace all the culture that I can, because it's very limited here. And so I would say, too, making those who don't necessarily look like you or are the minority, making them feel comfortable. Sometimes it's terribly, even if you flipped it to just male and female, being the only female walking into a room full of males, like, try being a black female. So just seeing that and making that person feel comfortable goes such a long way. And then just being open-minded. I have a lot of clients at the beauty room that aren't from the city, which is really weird. I don't know. Waxing is really popular in other areas outside of Evansville. But I have them from all different cultures, and they'll talk to me about how their food is raised and what different celebrations they have, and stuff that might be weird to me as just an American. I have to open my mind and say, this person is from a different background, and there's nothing weird about what they're doing. It's just not what I do. So I think keeping an open mind is super important, too.
And getting to know people, like I say, it's easy to hate is a strong word, or just to misunderstand what you keep at arm's distance. So whether it's cultural difference, theological difference, sexual difference, whatever it is, it's easy to misunderstand or not like or judge or whatever we keep at a distance. But when you get up close and have relationship and you have understanding in the heart and value and knowing, especially as a believer, we all have value, but we can still have stereotypes or whatever in our heads, especially when we, like you said, when you keep people and ideas at a distance. So bring them in close and get to know people and look them in the eye and talk and cry. Yeah, that's right. And laugh and cry.
So laugh and cry as we wrap up our last 10 seconds. No, thank you guys for sharing your friendship and your heart and your lives with us. Can you guys thank them for speaking with us today?